But we are in Woodstock this morning and we are having a coffee date at the District Cafè. For our Wednesday panel discussion, invited two guests. Yusuf Mohammed is the ward councillor for Ward 57. It stretches all the way from Mowbray, Observatory, Salt River, Woodstock, where we are now, Zonneblom. And Yusuf Mohammed is one of those young people in politics. First time councillor, is that correct? First time councillor. It's been about a year in the job.
I think it's been a year and a day since the election. That week was probably the most stressful week of my life. Let's just say we just finished the campaign, we just finished the election, and we were getting ready for our first council meeting, which I missed, by the way, because the day before my wife went into labour with my first son. So it's been an interesting year with my life changing, but I love it. It's an amazing job. I'm glad I'm doing it. The thing is, if you want to make a difference, you've got to throw your hat in the ring.
And already a question coming in, which I am using this platform to ask you directly as a councillor. A question from Jill. Jill says that lockdown was blamed for a lot of vandalism around the city. Much happened over the years, and it should have been easier during lockdown to keep an eye on things. Why did the Recreation and Parks Department establish a particular project to deal with the issues of vandalism? I think it's in regards to the Woodstock wall restoration.
When lockdown happened, especially hard lockdown, the initial one, the city stopped all non-essential services. That was including parks and recreation. So finances had to be reshuffled, priorities had to be reshuffled. At the time, we didn't fully understand what was going on with the coronavirus. So all officials and all decisions were made to play safe. Is it the War Memorial and Observatory that she's referring to?
I think it's referring to the Woodstock Hall restoration, which has taken place, but the broader issue was around vandalism around that time.
Interesting thing about vandalism is it's prevalent throughout the ward. It's been prevalent for many years. I'm actually very proud of my colleague, Councillor Ian McMahon, for getting that wall refurbished recently now, because the main road there is the boundary between our wards. I mean, our residents, we service both sides of the road. It makes no difference to either of us. But the wall does fall into his ward. I'm very happy he had that open day. He brought all the city's baskets of services on the day he opened the hall. The mayor was there. They planted some trees. It was in Arbor Month. But a few weeks before that, I think Jean from the local SID was with us, where we did a neighbourhood watch patrol with the mayor. And we launched the patrol from the hall. And
it just comes with part and parcel of some revving of engines outside a live venue. But please continue.
We started the patrol from the hall, and the refurbishment was already in process at that point. And one of the things that Councillor McMahon mentioned was that all the windows had been thrown in again, vandalized. That was outside of lockdown. There's a culture of recklessness, I think, with some individuals, but we are trying to foster, some community ownership of our facilities, and let's put some pride back into our facilities.
A resident who says she is disappointed, or they are disappointed in you. Please ask Yusuf why is so inaccessible. The residents of Warm Estate simply cannot get him to respond. There's a shack city being built in District 6. Why is nothing being done with that? And a criminal element that is increasing dramatically in Walmer and in Woodstock. It's shocking. Your response as the local councillor?
Let me just be very specific about the incidents within District 6. That is restitution land. The occupations of that land is worrisome, because there are major plans to develop that land in the future. And we all know what happens once land is illegally occupied, and then it goes through an entire process to get them. With regards to that, there's a perception within communities that crime is emanating from these encampments. And that's a very difficult and fine line that you need to walk, because not everybody that is living on the street or living in an informal structure is necessarily a criminal. In fact, most people that are living in informality are the biggest victims of crime. So I'm not sure if the resident, with regards to not getting hold of me, because District 6 is not actually in my ward, That's also my colleague, fantastic councillor Francine Hayem, next door. But if the resident wants to get hold of me, they're most welcome to. I'm here. They're welcome to email me, call me, WhatsApp.
Also joining me is Jean Lawrence. He's the CEO of the Woodstock Improvement District. One just has to take a walk down Main Road and Albert Road just to see how the face of Woodstock has changed over the last few years. Whether you want to see the negative of unfettered gentrification or you want to see the positive of a real diverse Cape Town community. Jean, how do you feel of how the face of Woodstock has changed over the last 10, 15 years?
It's Salt River, it's Woodstock, it's the approach to the inner city. All of that has gone through some significant change over the last decade, if not two. And yes, there are the issues around gentrification. There is the issue around housing in the inner city, which I think was addressed earlier this morning with your discussion around the Woodstock Hospital. And there are the other sites like Pickwick Street and the Salt River Market. That's all going to soon make more headlines, if I can put it that way. And then we still have a large residential component of historical Woodstock residents that's right around the venue that we're in right now. And so, yes, there are the new developments, which is the young and upcoming that's living in our suburb, in the new developments, and then we have our older residents. So Woodstock has changed. Yeah. I can't say it's all good and all bad. Our job as the improvement district is to provide that top-up service, that extra municipal service in this area. And for us, it's about creating a public space and a public environment, whether it's an older Woodstock resident or a new resident, to enjoy the public space and feel safe doing so.
Woodstock represents for me my most hopeful as a young Cape Townian. I lived here for a couple of years. It was the most hopeful period for me. We had old businesses that no longer are around, like Don Pedro's. There was a great place called the Torchbearer. I don't know if you've ever been there. It was a long time ago. It was an old pub/home style food place in Lower Woodstock. And then also this reviving of a business and commercial entity like the Biscuit Mill and so many places around. It really is this place where old and historical and much love meets new commercial, new and improved. It very much is the interface between what is old and historical and loved and what is new in Cape Town.
It's also a place where different organizations are growing. Not only like the Biscuit Mill, but let's take the Zip Zap Circus Academy in Salt River, which is part of this community. There's so many interesting organizations. Let's look at our street art. I mean, Woodstock is so well known, along with Salt River, for the street art that's blooming in this area. So it's really diverse and very very interesting.
Yusuf, I'll direct this from you. Safety is, of course, relative in South Africa. We all live with the trauma, the fear, the anxiety of crime. I'm not too familiar with the latest in crime statistics for Woodstock. But what I do remember is a great interaction between the U-Watch, the local CPF, the local neighbourhood watch forums, and community involvement in active community policing. But how are we looking in terms of the levels of safety and the fear of crime in Woodstock?
So Ward 57 is in a unique geographical location. It's a gateway to the CBD, essentially. And there's a tendency for opportunistic crime within the area. It's not like we're riddled with gangsterism like some areas in Cape Town, but there is definitely a proclivity for opportunistic crime, because there's so many commuters coming in and out of the area, people traveling to the CBD and out in the evenings. The hotspots are specifically the main roads, the Mowbray PTI. These are magnets for opportunistic crime. I mean, Jean has been doing amazing work in keeping that extra eyes on these smaller things. But I absolutely have to give credit to U-Watch, Jean and his people, Woodstock Saps and Colonel Matruas, Gary Adams, the team, the network that they have put together for the Woodstock area to neighbours looking after neighbours and all bringing all the stakeholders together. I haven't actually seen it anywhere else in the city work as well as it works here.
I do see that. But let's talk and touch on transport, Gene. This part of the city is where we find the gateway to the CBD. I would tend, if I were to live around this area, avoid traveling down the main road in terms of accessing the CBD in peak hours, and particularly in the afternoon. We have bus, taxis, and private vehicles trying to get through this bottleneck to the rest of the city. In terms of a transport future for Salt River, Woodstock, what do you envision? What do you want to see as a CCID?
A part of this starts with the whole idea of the Voortrekker Road corridor that basically starts at the Salt River Circle. That is the future of a new mobility corridor, if I can put it that way, that's going to make a contribution. I think that one of the biggest things that we would want to see is our rail network working again. I think it's been belabored on your show for so many times, but we really need our rail infrastructure to work again so that we can bring affordable transport. That certainly should alleviate some of our transport congestion. The other part is that our main roads were not designed ever for the amount of traffic and what we have. So from our point of view, as an improvement district, it's very difficult for us to talk about capital investment, but I certainly think that if we could make a more fair split between our modal transports, our different modes of transport, it will alleviate a huge amount of pressure.
Improvement districts are created out of special rate zones which pay for that. But let's talk about Woodstock with also a traditional, historic, working class community, and safeguarding them and insulating them for a special ratings area. Is it still affordable for the historic communities, working class communities of Woodstock, Salt River, Walmer Estate to still afford to live and raise families here, Gene?
I need to correct you there, because in both the cases of Salt River and Woodstock with the improvement districts, those are all just funded by the commercial non-residential.
Okay.
So it's the business community that's actually carrying the cost of the services of an improvement district on behalf of the residents. None of the residential properties in Salt River or Woodstock actually pay towards the improvement district additional rate. And so even if you think about the Woodstock improvement district, it's a vast area and predominantly it's residential, but the cost of providing that additional service is carried by the commercial property owners. If you just think, we drove 126,000 kilometers of patrol kilometers with our patrol vehicles in Woodstock in the last year. I'm reporting from our annual general meeting. And we attended over 12,000 public safety incidents in that period. And that's funded by our commercial property owners, who actually gain the benefit of a safer public environment because people feel that they can actually engage with those businesses in the area.
Rates has been driven then by market forces, by property related forces. How do you plan as the representative of the people of Ward 57 to insulate?
It's a very sensitive issue because Woodstock, Salt River is one of the last remnants of original Cape Town. Before massive skyscrapers, I mean, they're coming through. The CBD is expanding, and it's only going to expand one way. It's coming through Ward 57. That's why I'm actually very proud of this term of office and the mayor's priority land release program. I mean, since May, we've essentially pushed through just over 1,100 social housing projects. We've got that through the pipeline, and we're driving that extremely hard because the reality is we can't expect residents to be able to be close to opportunity and afford it if they're sitting with, I mean, we know the reality in Cape Town. I mean, some families are sitting with kids and grandkids all in a 2-bedroom house or 1-bedroom house. The reality is if you have to afford where you're going, you're going to have to leave the the CBD area. So I'm very proud of the priority land release program so that we can try and keep these people close to economic opportunity. Because the city is expanding. Urbanization is happening.
Councillor Yusuf Mohammed, I have his number here if you want him. Here's the councillor. His number is public property. So if you are a resident of Ward 57, I'll give it now, 067 820 6080. And he, as a public representative, is absolutely okay with it. Also, G. Lawrence is the CEO of the Woodstock Improvement District. Really appreciate your time. Gents, enjoy a cup of coffee. Thanks so much
Thank
for
you
joining
for having me.